start the day off with some block power cleans. Just going to work up to a triple. I don't want to work up to anything too heavy because I got a hard squat session right after the block power clean. So I'll work up to a triple, probably hit it for 1 to 2 sets of like a challenging set, but I want to move the bar fast on the clean. So yeah, I got the cleans, back squat. I got another density set. I'm probably going to do like 465 to 475 for my density set. I got 14 minutes on it. And then I got a low incline pause bench press and some deficit stiff leg dead. So I have a few takes that I want to react to that I saw on social media. One of them is on Instagram, and I think 2 on Threads. And then if I have time, or if I don't go off on like a huge rant and I have time to answer some questions, I'll find some questions to answer too. All right, 120 on the bar. Bar's moving well. My front rack position feels like shit. $140. Kind of debating if I want to put a belt on to do this or not. If I go like a lot heavier than 140, I'll probably put a belt on. Or depending on how this set feels. If this set feels kind of hard, I'll put a belt on. Okay, 145. I'll just stay here for another 1 or 2 more sets. All right, so I'm going to put this thread up on the screen here, but this is from Bowen's Human Performance. I don't even know how this showed up on my Threads page, because I don't think I follow this guy. But I'll read it to you, and then I'll kind of just give my take as we read through it. So he says, everyone's hyping Olympic lifting for, quote, athletic power. Let's be real, most coaches are teaching slow, inefficient lifts that don't even transfer to sport. It's not about the lift, it's about intent and joint alignment. Tell me I'm wrong. I'll tell you you're wrong. First of all, he says everyone's hyping up Olympic lifting for, quote, athletic power, as if there's athletic power and non-athletic power. It's kind of like that when I had my debate with Justin Lima, and he said the power complex is good because it teaches or develops ground-based power as opposed to non-ground-based power. These are distinctions that don't mean anything. So like he says, everyone's hyping Olympic lifting for athletic power. Well, then what's non-athletic power? I don't think there's such a thing as athletic power and non-athletic power. Power is a metric. Power is just, it's force times velocity. Power is just the metric that has a unit for measuring. So yeah, that distinction of athletic power doesn't mean anything. And then he says most coaches are teaching slow, inefficient lifts that don't even transfer to sport. Part of that could be true. I'm sure there's a lot of coaches who are working with high school kids or middle school kids, and those kids that they're working with are moving it slow and inefficient. But that's not a merit-based argument against the Olympic lifts. That's an argument against poor coaching. So that's kind of a dumb point. And then he says they don't even transfer to sport, which I've gone over so many times. Like, what doesn't transfer to sport? How about, does dropping your center of mass rapidly to gain better leverage on an external mass, does that transfer to sport? I'm thinking about when I played linebacker, like how many times I had to get skinny, get small, drop my center of mass like in the hole to get underneath like a pulling guard or something rapidly. I'll just do a quick demo. I'm sure you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. If I'm a linebacker and I'm kind of shuffling this way, and then I have to cut back this way, and I got a pulling guard next to me, I got to quickly drop my center of mass, reposition my feet, and gain better leverage on that offensive lineman who's pulling. That's something that you train in weightlifting. You train falling. You train repositioning of your feet. You train dropping your center of mass. You train triple flexion. So like, I would say that transfers the sport pretty well. I'll keep going through this after this next set. All right, then he says, look, Olympic lifts are great if your goal is Olympic weightlifting, but if you're training athletes for sport-specific power, again, there's no such thing as power versus sport-specific power, but if you're training athletes for sport-specific power, you need rotational force, okay? You need rotational force, elasticity, and joint integrity, not just a big clean or snatch. I think the Olympic lifts train joint integrity pretty well. I can't think of another series or category of exercises that demand your joints get in and out of end ranges of position quickly, under load, under duress, better than Olympic lifts, which I would say trains joint integrity better than pretty much anything you do. What else did he say? Athletic power isn't about how heavy you can lift vertically. It's about how well you can produce and control force in any direction at game speed. That's what coaches miss. The only way you can train to improve your game speed is by practicing the game or getting reps, getting game-like reps, because that's going to come down to the perception action coupling cycle. How well you can read and react. OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, and act, which the only way you can do that is by getting game-like reps, not by doing some whatever drills this guy's going to come up with. So, yeah, I'll do one more set here. All right, moving on to my density set of squats. I got 470 on the bar. We'll see how many reps I can get in. Wanted to do my first set with 5 reps just to kickstart it with 5. Back to the Olympic lifting thing, though. The other take I saw on this, and hopefully I can find it to put it up on the screen here, because this was a while ago, was that, and I don't remember who said it, so I'll have to search for it, but the tweet or the Instagram post, whatever, I think it was Twitter, whoever it was said that people who love Olympic lifting just have an emotional attachment to it. Or no, people who still use Olympic lifting just have an emotional attachment to it. I just think that statement itself is just absolute projection. It's like the people who haven't truly thought about the demands, the stimulus that the Olympic lifts place on the body. The people who haven't truly thought about it, of course they don't really find the Olympic lifts to be effective. But the anti-Olympic lifting people have much more of an emotional detachment to Olympic lifts than the people who are proponents of the Olympic lifts have an emotional attachment to the Olympic lifts. It's just crazy projection to me. No OVR hooked up today because I still don't have my iPad. And I want to use my phone to record this. But that was definitely slower than 0.4 meters per second, no doubt. All right, this next post is from Fred Duncan. Up on the screen here, it's this meme of the guy going out on stage and just rocking out like he's really excited. And the meme just says, college strength coach after the team goes 3-8. Everyone got slower, but all the back squat numbers improved. He goes on to write, I can't tell you how many college programs I see void of any true speed and acceleration work. This is one of the many reasons that some athletes get slower in school. I can't tell you how many college programs I see void of any true speed and acceleration work. How about 0? Because there's not a single, I worked in college strength and conditioning. I've met so many people in college strength and conditioning. There's not a single program that's avoiding true speed and acceleration work. And this is the thing. I know for a fact Fred Duncan has made posts and said in podcasts and things over time how you shouldn't comment on other people's training if you don't know the whole context. And so this is an example of someone in the private sector talking shit about the college sector, when I just know he's said something along the lines of college strength and conditioning coaches shouldn't comment on private strength and conditioning or private performance coaches who are working pro athletes because they don't know the full context. Dude, you're just being a hypocrite here. I'll keep going over this next set. But Fred Duncan has not seen a single college strength and conditioning program in its entirety, not one. So like this is another just a ridiculous statement, projection here. Goes on to say, ironically, the sprints, jumps, throws are the main stimulus in my program, and yet the weight training numbers go up with it. This is without making the entire program about the big three. Again, not a single strength and conditioning program in college makes their strength program about the big three. You know how many college strength and conditioning programs don't deadlift at all? Majority of them. You know how many college strength programs don't back squat at all? They just front squat, or they use like other His position is just, it's just not based in reality here. He says, new athletes of mine are always blown away by how much stronger they can get by training this way. Another issue is the suboptimal structure of training. If they aren't blasting away in the weight room, they are doing mindless conditioning that ends up being high CNS. Again, this isn't true. Most strength conditioning programs probably do one session a week of like aerobic running, and it's like usually it's tempo runs or some sort of version of a tempo run. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's making shit up. So here's the thing with this post by Fred. I don't comment on other people's shit, like if I disagree with them, because I just make my own content about it. I think it's obnoxious to like go in the comment sections of other people's shit and argue with them or try to rebut them. But here's what I would ask him. I would say he says, I can't tell you how many college programs I see void of any true speed and acceleration work, implying that there's a lot. I would just say, hey, Fred, name 10. How many colleges are there in the country? Hundreds. Name 10 that you've seen that void any true acceleration or speed work. Name 10. He probably can't name one. And I want names, dude. I want names of the colleges. I want names of the strength and conditioning coaches. And the claim should be corroborated by not just a player at the school, not by one athlete that you work with in the summer that goes to that team, but I want that to be corroborated by the strength and conditioning coach, meaning you need to get their program and show the yearly annual plan of the strength program. It's just a made up bullshit. And I understand it's a meme and it's meant to be funny, but this is his true position. This really is what he thinks. I got less than a minute left, so if I can hit a double, that'll put me at 20 reps. If I can hit a triple, that'll put me at 21 reps for 14 minutes. $22 reps. First set of the low incline pause press. A few more things to say about this Fred Duncan post. I hope just a few more things. I know Fred Duncan has talked many times about how negligible physical outputs and things like speed numbers, strength numbers, power metrics, how negligible those are at impacting winning in team sports, because team sports is multifactorial. You got to have the tactical skills, the technical skills, there's a psychological component. It's a very cohesive thing to achieve, right? Team sports requires more than physical outputs to be successful. He talks about how the value of a strength and conditioning coach is actually pretty low, but with this meme, he's implying that if a team goes 3-8, and everyone's physical performance improved, it's somehow the strength coach's fault that the team didn't win. It's like a totally incoherent position. You can't simultaneously say that physical performance metrics have negligible effect on winning in team sports, but then if those physical metrics improve and the team gets worse and the team doesn't win games, that's the strength coach is at fault, not the other components of the team, like the sport coaches, like the players just executing the game plans poorly, things like that. It's just a totally incoherent position. It's kind of like Kierwin and Flat. Like Kierwin and Flat, he's like made his brand about how negligible improving physical outputs is in terms of achieving a team sport high winning percentage. he's like made that his entire brand. But then he makes fun of someone like Louis Corolla, who I don't know if you guys know who that is. I think he's the strength coach at Rice football now, but he makes fun of Louis Corolla because Louis Corolla has been part of a lot of losing seasons. And it's like, here, you can't, he doesn't even realize how incoherent his position is because he just doubles down on it every single time. It's like, you're making fun of a guy, making fun of a strength and conditioning coach for being on a losing team, but then you're also always saying how the strength coach has very little value or little impact on teams' winning percentage. It's an incoherent position. It's crazy. This is the last thing of the day, deficit stiff leg deads. I got one more post that I saw on Threads that I want to go over and I want to react to, but I'm going to do my first set first. This is crazy. I don't know. You'll see my reaction in a sec. All right, so this is another post on Threads. This is from Ben Evidence-Based Strength, which that name, I don't know if this guy follows me or not. If you do and you see these videos, I apologize. I'm not trying to be rude, but the evidence-based thing is just so, honestly, it's cringe. And I think it gives away a lot of red flags, which is kind of ironic because of what he says here. He says, the reason most people don't train is because the whole process has been insanely complicated by influencers. So I have a lot to say here. So his name is Ben Evidence-Based Strength. Isn't it ironic how your name is Evidence-Based Strength, but then you're saying that the reason people don't train is because the process has been insanely complicated by influencers? Because I would argue that the evidence-based crowd are the people that have made it more complicated than anybody else. But that's number one. Number two is this is just incorrect and frankly kind of a stupid, it's a stupid take. It really is. People don't train not because they don't know what to do. Like nobody, again, as someone who's not living in reality, I'm sure you know people who don't train. First of all, calling it training to normal people, like training for normal people who don't exercise, don't call it training. When you're trying to convince someone that they should exercise, when they should work out, when they should train, don't call it training. It makes you sound like you're cosplaying, really, because like training for what? I'm not training for anything. I just want to be healthy. It's a hobby. It's a source of entertainment. It's something I like to do. It's a stress reliever. I'm not training for a specific goal. Like people who train are people who are participating in competitive sports, whether they're high school, college, professional, whatever. I'm not training for anything. I'm exercise. I call it training. You probably call it training. People who are into fitness call it training, but most people call it working out or exercise. It makes you, again, it's another thing that makes you unrelatable if you're calling it training to a normal person who doesn't exercise. They don't call it training, they call it exercise, or they call it working out. There isn't a single person who would answer the question, why don't you exercise, by saying anything related to not knowing what to do. This is crazy. People don't exercise because they don't want to. People don't exercise because they're tired, they're exhausted from a long day of work. They have other things they'd rather do with their free time. And now, obviously, I would encourage them to exercise and work out in their free time. I think that's a more productive way to spend their free time than watch Netflix or do a lot of things that they're probably doing otherwise. But a lot of people just don't enjoy it. And it's not because they don't know what to do. They just don't want to. They have other things they'd rather do, and they don't find physical activity to be a high priority activity for them. I have people in my life that don't train. I have people in my life that don't exercise. Not once. You know what I say? You know what they would say if I said, hey, do you want to come work out with me? Or, hey, do you want to, why don't you work out? Not a single person I know that doesn't exercise would say, no, it's too complicated, or no, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. They say, fuck that, I don't want to do that shit. That's what they say. And then he used the term influencer again, which I've talked about many times before, but using the word influencer as a pejorative or as an insult. Like, I don't call myself an influencer, but if people call me an influencer as a way to insult me or to discredit anything I say, I think it's kind of ridiculous. I think it's kind of cool that I can put out fitness, strength conditioning, athletic development content, and it influences people to change either their behavior or the way they train, or it influences people. I think that's kind of cool. And this Ben, evidence-based guy, he's using social media to try to push an agenda or try to communicate a certain message he has. He would absolutely have to consider himself an influencer by that criteria. And he would have to include himself in that thread that he posted. Go through his page, I guess. I haven't really gone through his page a ton, but I would imagine with the name evidence-based and some of the things that he posts, I would guarantee you he makes things more complicated than someone like Sam Sulek. Like Sam Sulek, I've watched some of Sam Sulek's stuff. He basically talks about like progressive overload and training hard. That's basically it. Like he makes it less complicated than someone like Ben Evidence-Based probably does. I got one more set. Let's get it done. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching.